matching the skills and the ability of Brock Lesnar. In 2003, you had the athletic ability and the wrestling background of Kurt Angle, which made the Kurt Angle-Brock Lesnar feud for WrestleMania 19 and matches post-WrestleMania so fantastic. Kurt Angle was defeating Brock Lesnar, and likewise Brock Lesnar was defeating Kurt Angle, and they had an incredible Iron Man match in 2003 on an edition of SmackDown that took up an hour of SmackDown's television time. But it was a fantastic match. But now it seems like Brock Lesnar doesn't have any competition, and he's really pushing the fact that he has accomplished everything that there is for him to accomplish. Now, how can somebody like Brock Lesnar say that? He defeated Triple H for the first time in his career. Having Triple H versus Brock Lesnar for the first time ever, this is a match that probably should have happened back in 2002, 2003, when Triple H was really in the prime of his career and really coming into his own element. I think that Triple H was really emphasized as being one of the best in the business more than he is now in 2002, and he was giving some of his best performances inside of the ring on a full-time basis. This match probably should have happened back in 2002. How can Brock Lesnar say that he has accomplished everything? You know, he's never held the tag team championships with anybody. He's never held the Intercontinental Championship. He's never held the United States Championship. There is so much that Brock Lesnar has left untouched in the wrestling industry, and I will give him credit for facing the likes of Hulk Hogan, Triple H, The Undertaker, The Rock, and defeating everybody seemingly he stepped inside of the ring with, even mid-card talents back in 2002, 2003, when Brock Lesnar was getting this massive push with the WWE alongside Paul Heyman. He's worked against a fair share of legends, Hall of Famers, icons, and former champions, and he's beaten them all. Brock Lesnar's inferior ability really has stood the test of time, but I really don't agree with Brock Lesnar alluding to the fact that he's accomplished everything, because he hasn't. I mean, there are so many other wrestlers who dominated the 80s that did so much more than Brock Lesnar. You can't honestly say that Brock Lesnar has done more than the likes of Hulk Hogan or a Ric Flair. They dominated the 80s, they dominated the early 2000s, and I think that a lot of things that happened in 2001, 2002 really overshadowed Brock Lesnar's dominance in the WWE. It was never anything Brock Lesnar did in his first few months of his wrestling career that stood out. It was just his presence and his dominance against people like The Rock and Hulk Hogan that really stood out and made Brock Lesnar such a huge success. And WWE financially backing him and promoting him as their biggest star long before there ever was a John Cena or a Randy Orton had a lot to do with Brock Lesnar's success. And leaving the business for 8 years, and we never heard anything from Brock Lesnar other than his competition in the UFC, dominating there as the UFC champion. We didn't hear from him for 8 months. Now 8 years, all of a sudden now he's back after 8 years of being on the shelf, and now he wants to solidify himself as one of the greatest of all time. I really don't agree with what Brock Lesnar was referred to as by Paul Heyman 24 hours after SummerSlam. In the promo, I got a couple of things that I didn't really agree with. One of the things was that Brock Lesnar is now referring to himself as the Lord and the Master of the WWE. They referred to the UFC as the Broctagon. There are a lot of things in that promo that was done 24 hours after SummerSlam that I really didn't agree with, and I never will agree with, because I really think that Brock Lesnar is one of those guys that is very easy to allow to get under your skin if you really let him. And I just don't want to see Brock Lesnar continue to dominate within the WWE. Sooner or later, Brock Lesnar has to reach his breaking point, and now he's going to build a reputation for himself being known as the guy who defeated Triple H. You know, the interview that Shawn Michaels gave 24 hours after SummerSlam really makes you believe that this could be it for Triple H. But even with how real and legitimate that interview was that Shawn Michaels gave for about 5 or 10 minutes, do you honestly really believe that this is it for Triple H, with so much responsibility to run the company, which could probably be the only legitimate reason that he has for wanting to quit his wrestling career and going back behind the desk of the WWE offices? I really don't want to believe that this is it for Triple H, because honestly he is really becoming one of my favorites because of the rarity that's involved with his wrestling career. We don't get to see Triple H wrestle as much as I would love to see Triple H wrestle. It's not 2002 anymore. Maybe Triple H realizes that. But everything that is happening now really makes you believe that this is it. You know, the tweets that were sent out by some of the WWE employees, the interview that Shawn Michaels gave, the promo that Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar opened up Raw post SummerSlam you know, it really makes you believe that this is it. And how genuine Paul Heyman was in that promo also leads you in the direction of believing that this is it for Triple H. You know, he referred to Triple H as one of the best in the business, holding numerous championships, facing legends, icons, Hall of Famers. He alluded to the fact in a past promo about The Undertaker and Triple H's match at WrestleMania 28 lasting nearly an hour. There's so many things, are really pulling you in the direction of believing that this is it for Triple H. One thing that really jumped out at me, and I'm sure it jumped at a lot of you and other radio show hosts and columnists who may hear this, at the end of the match he refused help from any of the officials who were trying to help Triple H backstage for medical attention. Then he turns to the fans on the ramp and he says, "I'm sorry." He mouths the words, "I'm sorry." And you can tell that Triple H is really emotionally affected by the outcome of the match. He really expected to win. But with everything being involved in this storyline, Triple H's wife coming in, having an altercation with Paul Heyman, the referencing of Triple H's children, I really refuse to believe that we have reached the climax of this feud. The thing that was interesting to me is, and the thing that continues to be interesting to me, is how Brock Lesnar always wants to leave the company after he accomplishes something here recently in the WWE. He loses to John Cena. A couple of days after that, he quits the company. He defeats Triple H about 5 months later, and he sends out a tout on WWE.com where he says, "I'm leaving the WWE and I'm never coming back," which really makes me believe that Brock Lesnar does not want to be there. And I can't stand somebody who is just there for the purpose of making money. I know that money talks, and money is a big influence on what a lot of people do. People do a lot of unexpected things that you probably wouldn't expect them to do for money, and I think really that's all that's keeping Brock Lesnar there. He knows he'll never compete inside of the UFC anymore because of the stomach injury, which was really, really influenced on in that match with Triple H. Triple H must have kneed him in the gut probably about 15, 20 times. The stomach injury that Brock Lesnar got in the UFC was really influenced on in that match with Triple H. I liked how they influenced that, and I like how they keep referencing his, UFC career, and he has that UFC-type style about him. He brings that to every match here recently with the UFC-style trunks and the UFC-style move arsenal. I really like that, but I really don't like how Brock Lesnar conducts himself in the way of, always wanting to leave and hinting that we're not going to see him for several months. Brock Lesnar defeating Triple H and then Brock Lesnar leaving for 4 to 5 months. I really don't want to buy into that, and I refuse to buy into that. I think that we're going to see at least one more match, and I think the appropriate form to have this match on will be the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. You look at Triple H's history inside Hell in a Cell. He had one of the longest Hell in a Cell matches in history in 2004 with Shawn Michaels. He retired Mick Foley in 2000. He competed in the only 6-man Hell in a Cell match with the likes of Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, and Rikishi. Triple H has had an illustrious history inside of Hell in a Cell. He's faced legends, icons, Hall of Famers, he's retired people, and he's won world championships inside of Hell in a Cell. So I think the appropriate form to have the feud between himself and Lesnar reach a climax will be at Hell in a Cell. There really isn't another appropriate pay-per-view or appropriate time to have this feud reach its climax. I refuse to believe that the feud has reached its climax at SummerSlam because there is so much left unanswered. We're left with so many unanswered questions, and the fallout of SummerSlam is still being felt within the entire WWE. We're just a few days removed from SummerSlam, and we still have so many unanswered questions. We want to know what the status of Triple H's career is. Is he really stepping down as a wrestler and going back into the office with this loss to Brock Lesnar? Not just this loss to Brock Lesnar, but ever since 2012 rolled in, it seems like Triple H hasn't done anything major. It seems like Triple H is losing every major pay-per-view he's in, and with how rare Triple H's matches come every once in a while, you would think he would be winning these matches rather than losing. The last pay-per-view match he won was back in December of 2011 against Kevin Nash, and I can't remember seeing Triple H win ever since then. So, he needs to win something, and I think that he is the appropriate one to get the better of Brock Lesnar in this feud. I don't want to see Brock Lesnar and Triple H's feud end with Brock Lesnar being the guy who wins it. I honestly don't want to see that because it's just absolutely atrocious. I don't agree with it, and I just can't see it going that way. If this is it for the Brock Lesnar Triple H feud, then how I see it going is Brock Lesnar will face The Undertaker at Survivor Series, and then Brock Lesnar will lose to The Undertaker, because I really don't think that Brock Lesnar deserves to, get the better of The Undertaker after getting the better of so many other wrestlers. In that feud with John Cena, it seemed like it was just built around, Brock Lesnar coming to WWE to raise chaos and injure people, and he really did injure John Cena. He may not have won the match, but he really did bring it in a lot of ways, and I do give Brock Lesnar a lot of credit for not being afraid of anybody and, accomplishing what he set out to do. I really think that Brock Lesnar has solidified his dominance in the WWE at this point, and he really needs to have a challenge, and I think The Undertaker is really the only guy right now who can bring that type of challenge to Brock Lesnar with with the win over Triple H, and then dominating John Cena the way he did back in April. Just a couple of days after WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar shows up and attacks John Cena, and then we have this feud between Cena and Brock Lesnar that lasted no time, going right into the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. You thought Brock Lesnar was going to return and defeat John Cena, but the thing that I said and consistently said after the match with John Cena ended with John Cena winning over Brock Lesnar was that Brock Lesnar had not come back to lose against anybody. He had come back to beat somebody. He wasn't going to lose every match he was in, and he indeed did defeat somebody, and it turned out to be one of the biggest wrestlers of all time. He defeated a legend, as you fans describe him, Triple H. I kept saying, Brock Lesnar's back to beat somebody, and it turned out that it was Triple H. And, it wouldn't surprise me if this feud was taken in the direction of Brock Lesnar and Triple H getting control of the entire WWE for several months, and then eventually we see Vince McMahon come back into the storyline, Triple H come back into the storyline, some other wrestlers come back into the storyline and regain control of the entire WWE. It wouldn't surprise me if something was done in the way of Paul Heyman's Survivor Series team against the McMahon's Survivor Series team, and then Triple H will return then at Survivor Series to be a part of Team McMahon to gain control of the WWE back from Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. I can see that. And if that doesn't happen at Survivor Series, I can see The Undertaker and Brock Lesnar having this match the first time they will have competed in a match since at least 2002, when The Undertaker really brought it to Brock Lesnar in some of the best pay-per-view championship matches of all time, having everything from a chain match to a Hell in a Cell match, which was one of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches of all time. Out of every match that's taken place in the history of Hell in a Cell, the Brock Lesnar-Undertaker Hell in a Cell match has got to be one of the greatest Hell in a Cell matches of all time, seeing Brock Lesnar F5 The Undertaker fair and square in the middle of the ring, getting the victory over The Undertaker in typical Brock Lesnar fashion. And I think that victory over The Undertaker really solidified Brock Lesnar as one of the best in the business. I just don't agree with Brock Lesnar coming out of nowhere for the first time